When we use the word architect or designer, what we usually mean is a professional, someone who gets paid. And we tend to assume that it's those professionals who are going to be the ones to help us solve the really big systemic design challenges that we face, like climate change, urbanization, social inequality. That's our kind of working presumption. And I think it's wrong, actually. In 2008, I was just about to graduate from architecture school after several years and go out and get a job, and this happened. The economy ran out of jobs. And a couple of things struck me about this. One, don't listen to career advisors. And two, actually, this is a fascinating paradox for architecture, which is that as a society, we've never needed design thinking more, and yet architecture was literally becoming unemployed. It strikes me that we talk very deeply about design, but actually there's an economics behind architecture that we don't talk about, and I think we need to. And a good place to start is your own paycheck. So as a bottom-of-the-rung architecture graduate, I might expect to earn about £24,000. It's about $36,000, $37,000. Now, in terms of the whole world's population, that already puts me in the top 1.95 richest people, which raises the question of who is it I'm working for? The uncomfortable fact is that actually almost everything that we call architecture today is actually the business of designing for about the richest 1% of the world's population. And it always has been. The reason why we forgot that is because the times in history when architecture did the most to transform society were those times when actually the 1% would build on behalf of the 99% for various different reasons, whether that was through philanthropy in the 19th century, communism in the early 20th, the welfare state, and most recently, of course, through this inflated real estate bubble. And all of those booms, in their own various ways, have now kicked the bucket. And we're back in this situation where the smartest designers and architects in the world are only really able to work for 1% of the population. Now, it's not just that that's bad for democracy, though I think it probably is. It's actually not a very clever business strategy, actually. I think the challenge facing the next generation of architects is how are we going to turn our client from the 1% to the 100%? And I want to offer three slightly counterintuitive ideas for how it might be done. The first is, I think we need to question this idea that architecture is about making buildings. Actually, a building is about the most expensive solution you can think of to almost any given problem. And fundamentally, design should be much, much more interested in solving problems and creating new conditions. So here's a story. The office were working with a school, and they had an old Victorian school building. And they said to the architects, look, our corridors are an absolute nightmare. They're far too small. They get congested between classes. There's bullying. We can't control them. So what we want you to do is replan our entire building. And we know it's going to cost several £1,000,000, but we're reconciled to the fact. And the team thought about this, and they went away, and they said, actually, don't do that. Instead, get rid of the school bell. And instead of having one school bell that goes off once, have several smaller school bells that go off in different places, in different times, distribute the traffic through the corridors. It solves the same problem, but instead of spending several £1,000,000, you spend several £100. Now, it looks like you're doing yourself out of a job, but you're not. You're actually making yourself more useful. Architects are actually really, really good at this kind of resourceful strategic thinking. And the problem is that, like a lot of design professions, we got fixated on the idea of providing a particular kind of consumer product. And I don't think that needs to be the case anymore. A second idea worth questioning is this 20th century thing that mass architecture is about big buildings and big finance. Actually, we've got ourselves locked into this industrial era mindset, which says that the only people who can make cities are large organizations or corporations who build on our behalf, procuring whole neighborhoods in single monolithic projects. And of course, form follows finance. So what you end up with are single monolithic neighborhoods based on this kind of one-size-fits-all kind of model. And a lot of people can't even afford them. But what if actually it's possible now for cities to be made not just by the few with a lot,
Hola mechones, como es sagrado todos los años, damos inicio a Mechoneo 2017. Nos alegra saber que cumplieron con sus cubos, encargo especial del mechoneo, el cual no se evaluará. Este año tenemos buenas actividades para ustedes. Antes de dar inicio a Mechoneo, daremos los nombres de los sacrificados. Constanza Acevedo. Bruno Bastián. Joaquín Moreno. Cristóbal Rodríguez. Ignacia Ortega. Pablo Arriagada. Daniel Peña. Las reglas son básicas: no corran, no griten, no sean rebeldes, o les irá peor. Prepárense para lo que se viene, el chancho los espera abajo. Disfruten. Somos arquitectos, somos legión.